How's it going, Pokemon trainers? Got any fun Pokemon plans for the day? I myself am just doing a little shiny hunting in the Grand Underground in BDSP. Have you played these games recently? What's that? You put the game down months ago? Well, that's totally understandable. While I think that both Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are both really fun games, it's clear that they've got some really glaring issues. So today, I'm going to propose some ideas of how these games could be fixed in future updates. So get ready, trainers, and let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. So it's been about 8 months since the release of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But since the debut of Legends Arceus, I've heard that a lot of people have shifted their focus towards this game. And to be honest, I get it. Legends has a really fun and addicting gameplay loop, as well as a ton of new features that make it pretty hard to go back to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. But along with that, we also have Pokémon Scarlet and Violet on the horizon. So once those games release, it's unlikely players will return to these games. That being said though, since the release of Shaman, Darkrai, and Arceus this past spring, I've been thinking about these games a lot. In particular, how some of these games' less than desirable features could be improved. Now before you ask, these fixes won't alter the story, introduce features like Mega Evolution, or change anything regarding the art style. They would, however, make the games more streamlined and add to their playability, which would hopefully be enough to bring trainers back for a bit before Gen 9 releases. So starting off with our fixes, let's talk about shiny Pokemon. We previously made a video on the channel talking about the new shiny hunting method introduced in the Grand Underground. With the Diglett Method, you'd search for Diglett spawning throughout the map, and after bringing your Diglett meter to 40, your chance of encountering a shiny Pokemon would go from 1 in 4096 to 1 in 2048. So in other words, this method would double your shiny chances. While that's all well and good, this method has no real indication for how long the bonus actually runs. Though after doing some research, we estimate that the Diglett bonus lasts for about 4 minutes in a local lobby, or 5 minutes if you're online. So to improve this method, a great and simple fix we'd like to see is the addition of a physical timer for the bonus. This could either be represented by an actual timer, or having the meter deplete as the bonus runs out. But either way, having a way to gauge how much time is left would be a huge improvement to the player experience. Now before we move on to our next fix, another tweak we'd like to see made to this method is a slight increase in the shiny odds. Maybe instead of adding 1 extra roll to the shiny rate, it could be 2 extra rolls for a boosted rate of 1 in 1024. In my opinion, this additional boost wouldn't break the game by any means. Rather, it would incentivize players to return to these games and utilize this new mechanic. Moving on to our second fix, we'll be talking about another big shiny method for Diamond and Pearl, and that's the Poké-Radar. This technique takes a lot of skill to master, but when you do, it can provide some pretty great shiny odds. That is, if luck is on your side, of course. There's the possibility that while you're chaining Pokemon, your chain could break. This is a rather annoying feature for the Poké-Radar method, but it's also something that was present in the OG Diamond and Pearl. However, in those games, you only had a 2% chance of breaking your chain. In the Gen 4 remakes, that number jumps from 2 to a whopping 7%, which is a far more significant gamble, especially since you have to keep your chain going for about 30 to 40 Pokemon in order to get great shiny odds. While the shiny odds are better for BDSP from the originals, this higher chance of failure will cause a lot of frustration. So in a future patch, I'd really like to see ILCA update the mechanics of the Poké-Radar, maybe by making it less punishing to use. I know I'd certainly be using this method a lot more, and I'm sure a lot of other trainers would as well. Our third fix will be the last involving shiny Pokemon, and that's for a revamp of the Shiny Charm item. In every game that this item has appeared in, the Shiny Charm has boosted the shiny rates of every encounter method, including wild spawns, egg hatches, and legendary encounters. In BDSP, however, it doesn't appear to be working correctly. Data miners discovered several months back that the Shiny Charm only boosts the chances when hatching Pokemon. So unless you're a fan of using the Masuda method of shiny hunting, there really wasn't a benefit of having this item. Now the crazy thing about BDSP's Shiny Charm is that when you go to get it from the game director, he tells you that it works on Pokemon that you, quote, run into. This statement heavily implies that it's supposed to work on wild Pokemon. Though like we said, the shiny charm still only works on hatched Pokemon. So for this fix, we hope they add a patch that makes the shiny charm work for all encounters and not just eggs. Our next fix involves a feature that really hurts the difficulty of the game. Since the release of Pokemon X and Y, you could play with your Pokemon to level up their affection towards you. This feature would give them in-game battle perks, such as occasionally dodging enemy attacks, enduring a hit with 1 HP, and having a higher chance to land critical hits. These bonuses may sound great for some players, but for others, they make these games far too easy. Now in the older titles that had this mechanic, affection could only be unlocked through special modes like Pokemon Ami or Pokemon Refresh. In BDSP though, these affection bonuses are linked directly to your Pokemon's friendship, so even simple interactions like winning battles and gaining experience will unlock these bonuses. This can greatly hurt the experience by making gym battles and Pokemon encounters too easy. In fact, there's been several occasions where trainers have lost shiny legendary encounters because their Pokemon's affection caused them to land critical hits. And I'm sure you can imagine how long some of those encounters took to find. So please Ilka, add a feature that'll let us toggle the affection bonuses in the future. Alright, so far we've covered 4 of the fixes we'd like to see made to these games. Now for our 5th and final fix, we'd like to see some changes made to BDSP's Mythical Pokemon distributions. Now since their inception, Mythical Pokemon distributions have always had a limited time frame to receive them. I remember back in 2008, there was a special Deoxys distribution at GameStop that ran for about a month. This Deoxys came with special moves that could be utilized by each of its forms, which you had access to via special meteors in Veilstone City. The problem with this event, though, was if you missed it, you weren't able to get Deoxys in the Gen 4 games unless you transferred one from Gen 3, which of course can only be obtained through an event that took place in 2006. Fast forward to 2022, and Mythical Pokemon distributions haven't changed much. But in terms of BDSP, I think this is a really frustrating feature, especially since some of these Pokemon trigger special in-game areas and events. For example, let's take a look at Darkrai. Earlier this year, you could get a member's card to gain access to both New Moon Island, as well as a side story to encounter Darkrai. But if you missed that limited time distribution, you currently don't have access to any of this. And that also goes for both Shaman and Manaphy as well. While I do think their limited time availability makes these mythicals all the more special, both the Pokemon Company and Ilka should consider rerunning these events a few more times in the future. It would certainly be a big help to those who either missed these events the first time around or didn't have these games while they were running. So if they redid these events, it would be something else that would bring players back to this game. Now I know what you might be thinking, but TogeTips, if they bring these events back, won't these Pokemon not be as special anymore? Well, sort of. More people would have access to them for a bit, but to be honest, most players only have one of these mythicals, and a lot of the extras you see floating around trading lobbies are either clones or straight up hacked Pokemon. At least by rerunning these events, there will be more legit versions on the trading market. Plus, I'm not saying that they have to run these events forever, maybe just until the release of Scarlet and Violet, or even a few months after that. Because right now, these games are feeling kinda dead, and they really need something to bring them back up again. Another thing they could consider is making these events permanent additions to BDSP. While this seems like a rather unlikely option, it would be a great quality of life change overall. Plus, it would be really great to experience these events again, say like 5 or 10 years down the road. So guys, those are going to be our 5 fixes that we'd like to see made to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, we want to know if you guys have any fixes of your own. Is there something that you'd like to see added or altered in the Gen 4 remakes? Be sure to let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you're new to the channel. With Scarlet and Violet coming in just a few months, we'll be doing some Gen 9 videos including predictions, discussions, and tips once the games release. We'll also have some Pokemon Go Fest related videos coming in the next few weeks. So either way, there's a lot of cool stuff coming that you won't want to miss. So until then, thank you all so much for watching. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you all in the next video. Take care.